máš tady mikrofon, jo? Jo, jo. pro tebe.
Opravdu? Jiří, ale víš, že je to u tebe pozornost?
Ano, je.
Překvapení?
Dalo by se to tak říct.
Jiří, víš, že jsem dojel?
Ano, vím.
Mohu?
Musíš.
Já jsem tak napjatý.
Ano, si.
Tak to jsi nemusel.
Taková malá pozornost.
Dobrý večer, já bych vás všechny chtěla přivítat na dnešním autorském čtení. Zahájí ho Nicola McCartney, což je skotská dramatička, režisérka divadelní, dramaturgyně, má za sebou spolupráci i s televizní, rádiovou, filmovou produkcí. Za svoje působení vystřídala nespočet různých pozic na různých místech, ale v současné době mimo jiné působí i v Národním skotském divadle a taky vede program pro dramatiky, mladé dramatiky na univerzitě v Edinburghu. Páteří jejího díla jsou divadelní hry. My dneska uslyšíme ukázky ze 4 z jejich her a mimo to pracuje také na svém prvním románu. A já myslím, že to je asi všechno. A já asi předám teda slovo Nikole.
Ahoy. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to read 4 different pieces to you this evening. The first piece that I will start with is a painting.
Takže děkuji za pozvání. A dneska, jak jsem už řekla, bude číst ze 4 svých děl a začíná s malbou.
The writer who was with you last night, Liz Lockhead, she and I were one of 20 contemporary Scottish writers invited to make a play with the National Theatre of Scotland.
Já a autorka, co tady byla včera, Liz Lockhead, jestli jste někdo byl, tak jsme byli jedni ze skotských autorů přizvaných k tomu, aby jsme napsali nějaké dílo, co se týče skotské historie.
It was a site-specific performance in the Scottish National Portrait Gallery.
Odehrávalo se to ve Skotské národní galerii.
And the commission, the idea was that each writer would take a painting and make a character within that painting speak to Scotland on the eve of the referendum on independence.
Vlastně myšlenkou celého toho projektu bylo, že každý z autorů si vybere nějakou malbu a na ní si vybere jednu z postav a vlastně jejími slovy promluví ke Skotsku v předvečer referenda.
Most of the writers involved chose to make a very famous person speak, a very famous author or a very famous historical character.
A většina z těch autorů si teda vybrali někoho slavného, nějakou buď slavnou historickou postavu, nebo tak, která jejich slovy promluví.
I decided to do something completely different.
A já jsem se rozhodla udělat to úplně jinak.
And I decided to make a tiny little character in this painting who speak, and you probably can't see her, but I'll tell you who she is.
Tak jsem si vybrala takovou úplně maličkou postavu z téhle malby. Pravděpodobně ji ani asi nevidíte, ale Nikola nám hnedka...
But I'll very briefly explain what the painting is first.
A nejdřív teda krátce vysvětlím, co to je za malbu.
It's a painting by an Italian artist called Paolo Monaldi.
Je to obraz od italského malíře Paola Monaldiho.
And right in the center, off center of the painting, you will see 2 little figures.
A tam přesně uprostřed, nebo lehce od prostředku jsou vidět 2 postavy.
This depicts an historical scene which fundamentally changed the future not just of Scotland but the United Kingdom.
A zobrazuje to vlastně moment, který zásadně změnil dějiny nejen Skotska, ale celého Spojeného království.
The man in the black coat and the red tights is the son of someone called the Old Pretender, James III of Scotland.
A ten člověk v černém kabátu a rudých punčochách je syn Henry III?
James.
Sorry. Je syn Jakuba III. Zvaného, který se vlastně prohlásil se sám za krále Skotska.
And he is congratulating his son about being made a cardinal in the Roman Catholic Church.
A tam na tom obraze právě gratuluje svému synovi, který byl zrovna zvolen za kardinála římskokatolické církve.
And that, because his son became a cardinal in the Roman Catholic Church, that meant he could never become king of England again. He'd been deposed from the throne, and because he was making an alliance with the Roman Catholic Church, it meant that he could never ever regain the throne of England, Scotland and Ireland again.
A vlastně tím, že on se stal kardinálem, se zřekl, nebo už nikdy nemohl být zvolen za krále Anglie ani Skotska.
So it changes the history of the UK and Scotland, this event, but I chose to focus on a character over here.
Takže tahle událost mění historii Skotska a Spojeného království, ale já jsem se rozhodla soustředit se na tam malou postavu, tam v rohu.
She's a woman in the shadows, sitting by the wall, and she's begging.
A je to žena, co sedí tam u zdi ve stínu a žebrá.
And that's all I'm going to say.
A teď vlastně Nicola promluví jejím hlasem.
Except the size of the projection is about the size of the painting, so imagine the actor standing in front of the painting, performing this to you, the audience.
Akorát vlastně ta velikost té projekce je v podstatě stejná jako velikost toho obrazu, takže si můžete jenom představit, jak to asi vypadalo v té galerii, jak to asi bylo působivé.
Can you see me, Scotland? If anyone can see me, you can see me. I hear that in your country, your kings walk right amongst the people, that you are the fairest-minded nation on earth. So if anyone can see me, you can. What are you looking at? They're all here, lords and ladies, priests and penitents, dealers and stealers, come to feast on the Roman ruins rich in history. Well, their history, not mine. You'll never read my history in a history book. You've come to see what they've all come to see, haven't you? The palace. Beautiful, isn't it? All that gilt and marble, proper Roman grandeur, isn't it? My arse. It's all fake, every speck of it. On a normal day, this is the ugliest palace in all Rome and the gloomiest piazza. But today it's all dolled up in paint and powder like a fine lady. Like a fine lady fallen in hard times, if you know what I mean. For what? For the something that's happening over there. Something to do with your future, Scotland. Oh, is that what you're looking at, your king? Or at least the one who pretends to be. I don't care about your future. I don't. I've got more important things to think about. I've got to think about them in their fancy clothes and fancy wigs and fancy slaves trussed up in scarlet suits, walking amongst the gentlefolk as if they're free. At least they've got plenty of bread in their bellies. How's that fair, eh? You tell me how that's fair. My begging bowl is empty because the fancy folk pretend not to see me. Is that why you can't see me, Scotland? Are you just like them? I'll tell you what I see. I see my friends, the ones who can work, working, the others begging, fighting, stealing. I see my neighbour, that's her, one of those women who work the streets with her poor child by the hand. And yet, that's her man with his fist raised to her. That's what I see every day. Drunk. Both drunk. Good, the soldiers are beating him. Go on, do him, kill him. That's it. Break his bones, every last one of them, because he's broken plenty of hers. Go on! Sorry about that. I'm not drunk. Well, I am a bit drunk. You'd be if you had to sit in the shadows and take what you're thrown and sleep with whoever and scrape the scraps out of bins just to stay barely alive. And I see my son, tethered to the wall behind me. It's not good for business, but I need to keep him with me or he'll wander off and kill himself or get killed. I work when I can work, but then who takes care of him? And them that'll have me work don't want to look at him because it scares them or it makes them sad. They say he has a devil. He's just a poor soul. You shouldn't love your children too much, especially the ones God gives you as a burden. But I'm his mother. So I tie him to the wall and I sit here and I wait with my bowl for the pennies to drop in or not. You can see me, Scotland. You're just not looking because you're scared. And I make you sad because I know you want to see me, you want to help. You have the best thinkers on earth. At least that's what people say. So I know that when you have the choice to make a new start, do it all different, make a new society, there won't be beggars like us in the new Scotland. Will there? Of course there will. Because for there not to be, you would have to take the gamble. The gamble that in helping me, you'd end up just like me. So instead, you let them make a criminal out of me. Don't look at me. Just see my begging bowl. Just look over there. Something's happening. It's about your future. I have more important things to worry about. So we'll probably come back to the subject of the referendum later and why I chose to write what I chose to write about.
No, pravděpodobně se k tématu referenda a vrátíme později, takže se dostaneme i k tomu, proč jsem napsala to, co jsem napsala.
The next piece I'm going to read is from a play that's just been republished recently, which is why I've chosen to read it.
Další kus bude z hry, která byla nedávno znovu vydána, a proto jsem vlastně si ji vybrala, že ji budu číst dnes.
I wrote this play in 2001.
Napsala jsem ji v roce 2001.
It was a commission by a very famous Scottish theatre company called 784.
A vlastně ji provedla jedna z nejznámějších skotských společností.
784. And 784 was a political theatre company.
784 je jméno té společnosti a vlastně je to dost politicky zaměřená herecká společnost.
And the commission I was given was to write a play about asylum seekers and illegal immigration.
A oni si vlastně tu hru objednali tak. Mým úkolem bylo napsat hru o žadatelích o azyl, o imigrantech.
And it was one of the hardest plays I've ever had to write because I just simply couldn't write it.
A byla to jedna z nejtěžších her, co jsem kdy psala, protože prostě jsem se skoro nemohla dostat ke konci.
And one of the things that I learned through this was from another Scottish playwright who met me in a street in Glasgow where I live.
A v podstatě jsem se o tom tématu dozvěděla trošku víc od jiného skotského autora, který žije v Glasgow stejně jako já.
And he asked me, how's it going? How's your play about illegal immigrants going? And I said, very badly.
A on se mě zeptal, jak to jde, jak jde ta hra o těch ilegálních imigrantech, tak já jsem mu na to řekla, že teda špatně.
And he said to me very directly, that is because you're soft.
A on mi na to přímo odpověděl, to proto, že jsi měkká.
You are too liberal in your thinking and you want to say that illegal immigration is fine.
Tvoje myšlení je moc liberální a vlastně ty si myslíš, že chtěla bys říct, že ilegální imigrace je v pořádku.
That economic migration is fine.
Že ekonomická migrace je v pořádku.
And what you need to do is go against your own politics.
A co musíš udělat je to, že musíš jít vlastně proti vlastnímu přesvědčení.
And write a character whose point of view you fundamentally disagree with.
A napsat postavu, s jejímž pohledem na věc absolutně nesouhlasíš.
Because that is what makes drama.
Protože tak vzniká drama.
So I did. And I wrote the main character in this play, some of whose speeches I will read, is an illegal people smuggler. He is an Albanian people trafficker.
Takže jsem to tak napsala a vlastně jedna z těch, tahle postava, se kterou nesouhlasím, je vlastně pašerák lidí.
And as I began to write the piece, I began to discover that I quite liked him.
A vlastně se mi to pak začalo docela líbit.
And I began to understand some of his point of view. I still don't agree with him, but I began to understand him a bit better.
A postupně jsem začínala porozumět některým z jeho názorů. Pořád s ním nesouhlasím, ale něčemu už rozumím.
So I'll read from scene 1. In scene 1, he is being interviewed by the border police, having been pulled out of the water, and at this point they don't know if he is an immigrant or who he is.
Takže já začnu první scénou a v téhle scéně on je vlastně vytažen imigrační policií z vody a oni se ho ptají, kdo je. Nikdo neví, kdo je.
Okay. Why? I have never warmed to why. It's such an unspecific question, don't you think? Where is different? Where is easy? There you say, or here. A blanket. I need a blanket. The chill has not worn off my bones yet. Or when? That's a good one. You say today or 21st September, there are only limited possibilities, and everyone remembers the exact date they left. Or who? No. We have the same problem with who. I need a blanket. I'm sorry, I'm not stalling, it's just... I need a blanket. The chill has not worn off my bones yet. Please? May I have a cigarette? Why? It's difficult to be specific in English. I will try my level best. Okay. I am a child of the high places. I lived in a village in a deep valley cut through the mountains by the Black River. I was I suppose you'd call it a child of the high places. Suppose you call it a dreamer. Spent all my days climbing. No time for 2 plus this or the cat sat on that. I knew it all. Devoured books, kids twice my age wouldn't blow the dust off. Instinct, I suppose you'd call it. I wanted to know, and I wanted to know more, so I climbed. Every day, I scrambled up to a thin ridge on our side of the valley and lay flat as a sniper amongst the ferns and the red and white rock lilies. I was Robin Hood, watching, waiting, watching our village and the other. 2 villages less than a mile apart. 2 villages that had not spoken, not traded, had not laid eyes on each other for maybe 50, 100, maybe 200 years. Maybe not so long. Why? I would lie there all day until dusk, until the lights came up in the 2 villages and all along the metal suspension bridge and the 5 hydroelectric dams that straddled the Black River. Then it was time. I would draw out the small red torch, a present to my older brother which I had appropriated for my undercover operations, and a piece of broken compact mirror. Then, dit-da, dit-dit-da, out into the blackness. Just a little trick I'd picked up from the Saturday afternoon war movies me and my brother saw once a month up in the town. Told you I was, I suppose you'd say, a bright spark. The movies had subtitles in 3 languages, take your pick. Dit-da, every night for days, months, years, and then one night, on the other side of the valley, dit-da, dit-dit-da. Marvelous, don't you think? Dit-da, dit-dit-da. The same idea, the very same. I'm going as fast as I can. Me and the boy, we did this for days, months, years. No one knew. I never saw him, just flashes in the darkness. 1 year older. His father worked the dams, my father worked the dams. His mother made and mended clothes, my mother was a hairdresser. He had an older brother and a younger brother too, and an older sister who had sex in the graveyard with her boyfriend, except on holy days. And he too was Robin Hood, but we couldn't have two. And we hatched schemes to ambush the Sheriff of Nottingham on the suspension bridge and seize the king's gold. No one knew. Da. And we both knew of the trouble in the city. And he said they were as afraid there as we were here, that the rebels were moving in through the mountains to seize the dams. Da. And when the town was taken, he was just as disappointed as me that we had to miss the one-off showing of the Sands of Iwo Jima, which neither of us had seen on the big screen before, but only on Channel 2 with a fuzzy picture because the army had blown up the transmitter at the head of the valley. Da. No one knew. Me and the boy agreed to meet, knew the danger. If someone saw, then we couldn't just walk over the bridge. No one had ever done that, ever. So one night, I swam the river. We're just skipping the bit with the woman. The water was so black. Even the moon did not reflect off it. But I swam the river. I swam because I could hold my breath underwater the longest, because I had seen the Poseidon adventure 4 times, because I was Robin Hood. That night, I stripped, rubbed olive oil all over my body, then wrapped my grey wool sweater and boots in a plastic bag, which I tied to my back. I swam through the black and the cold. You asked me. You want to know why I ended up on that boat? You want answers to your questions? Then listen. I swam. At the place, at the time, he was not there. I waited for him. I am freezing. A blanket, please. He did not come. I cried. I was ashamed of him, ashamed and angry. He was a coward. Please. I swam the whole way back across the river and walked back to the edge of our village just as the sun was making its first appearance above the mountains. I saw him for the first time, clinging to the signpost, blood from his 2 hands pouring over the name of our village, blood from his mouth pouring over the name traitor, pinned to his grey wool sweater. Crucified. He was 11 years old. I need a blanket. So now at the end of the play, towards the end of the play, once the border guards have established that he's a people trafficker, he gets angry with them and he now explains to them why he does this for a living.
No a teď vlastně se přesuneme ke konci té hry, kdy imigrační policie přijde na to, že on teda pomáhá převážet ty lidi a rozčílí se a vysvětluje jim, proč je tím, čím je.
What I find really odd about this, the audience reaction to this moment in the play, was that every night the audience would applaud really loudly when he said this, and he's supposed to be the bad guy.
A co mi přijde zajímavé na tomhle konci je to, že pokaždé, když se tahle hra hraje a dojde na tuhle část, tak diváci tleskají. A což je zajímavé, protože vlastně je to záporná postava.
Walking home, I meet a starving child in the street. Do I give him the bread and send my own children to bed hungry? Of course not. I feed my own children. Maybe I throw the starving child a few crusts, but he'd have to ask. No demand, no supply. Who is wise? He that learns from all men. In my country, all we know now is how to rape and murder and smuggle and loot. You want to know what it's like, to be hungry? I cannot tell you, can I? You know all about it. You sip the news every morning with your filter coffee. As it happens, reports from the front line. We get free handouts, yeah? Free if the aid can get through. Free if we are not blacklisted by the authorities. Free if we can bribe the soldiers. But we are free, yes. So stop complaining. The ordinary man, and I count myself one, I come from a very ordinary family, doesn't need freedom. He needs not to be shot at, robbed and killed. He needs a job and wages. Freedom is useless when you can't use it. Stop complaining. Stop it. We are safe after all. We are snug as bugs in rugs, safe and sound, safe as houses, or tents at least. Safe from the war crazy and the shell-shocked who stumble wild and naked through the tent at 4 a.m. Safe from the misfired missiles. Stop. Safe from typhoid, tetanus, and TB. Stop. Stop. Safe from the shotgun soldiers who stop you striking for the safety of the perimeter fence. Stop. 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 We are safe and satisfied and free. Nothing to worry about then. Nothing. No soap, no water, no clothing, no home, no work, no self-respect. Nothing to do all day except pace a little, sleep a little, eat a little, and talk, 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 and wait, wait, wait. No concern to anybody, no one. You think I'm telling you all this to stir your pity? Fuck your pity. Fuck your self-adhesive charity envelopes. I don't want a sanitized water supply. I want a Coke with ice. I don't want a handout, I want a job. I don't want to drive a car, I want to drive a fucking Mercedes. So fuck who is my neighbour. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? And if not now, then when? I'm sorry, what was the question? Thank you, you're very kind. I am not an actor. Okay, so Cave Dwellers, in order to write that play, I spent quite a lot of time with illegal immigrants and asylum seekers who'd recently moved to my country, and that's where I got all of this from. So. Can you remember that?
Sorry,
In order to write Cave Dwellers, I spent quite a lot of time with illegal immigrants and asylum seekers coming to my country, which is where I got all the material from.
Takže vlastně, když jsem tu hru psala, tak jsem hodně času strávila s ilegálními imigranty, co přijíždí do Skotska, a od nich jsem získala spoustu informací.
Was quite a contemporary play at the time.
Tehdy to byla celkem hra, která se zabývala celkem současnými událostmi.
It was a very, very important, highly charged political issue in the country at the time.
I v dnešní době je to velice důležité téma, politické téma imigrace.
But I've always written about political issues.
Ale já jsem vždycky psala o politických problémech.
I am not actually originally Scottish.
A vlastně nejsem ani Skotka.
I was born in a war zone.
Narodila jsem se v Irsku.
I am from Belfast in Ireland originally.
Jsem z Belfastu.
And the next play that I'm going to read to you is a play about that situation.
A tahle další hra bude se právě týkat té situace Irů.
I don't know how much you know about Ireland, but Ireland has had a civil war for some time, which is supposedly over now.
Nevím, kolik toho o Irsku víte, ale v Irsku probíhala občanská válka, která by teď měla být ukončena.
Nationalists versus unionists, people who want to have the island of Ireland separate from the United Kingdom and those who don't.
A v podstatě ta válka probíhala mezi nacionalisty a unionisty, to znamená mezi lidmi, kteří chtěli Irsko samostatné, a mezi těmi, co chtěli, aby Severní Irsko zůstalo součástí království.
But this is also divided along religious lines.
Ale zároveň tam byly i náboženské rozdíly.
However, we emigrate a lot to the Irish, like I did to Scotland.
A ještě k tomu Irové hodně emigrují.
And we like to export our problem to other parts of the world.
A rádi svůj problém exportujeme do dalších částí světa.
When I left Belfast at the age of 18, I hated living there and I never, ever, ever wanted to go back.
A když jsem z Belfastu odjela, když mi bylo 18, tak jsem nesnášela život v Belfastu a už jsem se nikdy nechtěla vrátit.
I hated that everything was about nationalism or unionism.
Nesnášela jsem, že všechno muselo být buď o nacionalismu nebo unionismu.
Whether you were Catholic or whether you were not Catholic.
O tom, jestli jste katolík a nebo ne.
I came to Scotland thinking I would escape this and discovered that some of the same issues exist there.
Tak jsem jela do Skotka s tím, že tomuhle uteču a pak jsem zjistila, že v podstatě to existuje i tam.
I vowed as a young playwright that I would never, ever, ever write about Ireland.
A jako mladá autorka jsem se zapřísahala, že o Irsku nikdy nebudu psát.
But then I broke that rule.
Ale pak jsem ten slib teda slomila.
And the reason I broke the rule was because two of my friends were shot.
A to proto, že dva z mých přátel byli zastřeleni.
They were both Catholics.
Oba byli katolíci.
From a Catholic family, and they were shot as retaliation for some other person being shot. There was no sense to it.
Oba byli z katolické rodiny a v podstatě byli zastřeleni jako pomsta za další dva zastřelené z druhé strany, se kterými vlastně neměli vůbec nic společného.
And it was the second shooting which made me think I now must write this play.
A po tom druhém zastřelení jsem se vlastně rozhodla, že tuhle hru musím napsat.
Because I was in Scotland where people still fight about whether they're Protestants or Catholics. There are now football teams, and there are two football teams in Glasgow, and they align themselves along those political lines. One is Protestant mostly, one is Catholic mostly, one is, you know.
A vlastně i proto, že ve Skotsku tenhle problém pořád existuje, že tam se pořád lidé dělí na to, jestli jsou katolíci nebo protestanti. V podstatě v Glasgow jsou, dokonce to zasahuje do fotbalu, v Glasgow jsou dva fotbalové týmy a jejich fanoušci se naprosto dělí tím, jestli jsou katolíci nebo protestanti.
And I thought this is ridiculous.
A podle mě je to směšný.
So I looked at, I thought, but how will I write about it? I don't want, it's too painful for me to write about it in the present day.
A tak jsem přemýšlela, jak bych o tom psala, protože je pro mě moc bolestivé o tom psát jako o té, jako kdyby to bylo dnes, ze současnosti.
And then I discovered that very generously the Irish had exported the very same problem to Canada.
A pak jsem se dozvěděla, že Irové, protože to je štědrý národ, vlastně ten svůj problém exportovali i do Kanady.
So this play is called Heritage.
Takže tahle hra se jmenuje Dědictví.
It is a very simple play. It is a Romeo-Juliet type love story.
Je to celkem jednoduchá hra, je to v podstatě na způsob Romea a Julie.
And it is about an Irish Protestant immigrant falling in love with an Irish Catholic immigrant in Canada, where everyone's still fighting the war from the old country.
A je to o irském protestantovi, co se zamiluje do irské katoličky v Kanadě, kde pořád ta válka probíhá.
The main character is a girl, a young woman.
Hlavní postavou je ta dívka.
And this scene I'm going to read is when her parents find out that she is seeing the boy despite them having told her not to.
A tahle scéna je ta, ve které se její rodiče dozví, že pořád se stýká s tím klukem, i když jí to zakázali.
And her father, who deeply loves her, out of him erupts 300 years of pent-up hatred.
A vlastně toho otce to dožene k tomu, který jinak jako miluje velmi, tak jeho to dožene k tomu, že vlastně se z něj v té scéně vydá všech těch 300 let nenávisti, že se projeví.
So I will only read one scene from this play because of time.
Takže z téhle hry přečtu jenom jednu scénu.
And I have to do 3 different voices.
A budu muset dělat 3 různé hlasy.
So when I am Sarah, I will look at you.
Takže když budu Sára, tak se budu koukat na vás.
When I am Sarah's father, I will have a deep voice and I will talk this way.
A když budu hrát nebo mluvit za jeho otce, tak se budu koukat tam tím směrem a budu mít tenhle hlas.
And Sarah's mother, I will talk this way.
A takhle to bude její matka.
And I will try. So, actually I'll do this. So, you returned. I am. Where did you go? out walking across the fields? On your own? You know I wasn't. She saw me. Who do you call she? Ah, Sarah, what did I tell you? Remember what you said, Hugh. What possessed you after everything we talked about, Hugh? I know what I said. What did I say to you? That I was to walk out with Michael Donaghy no more? And you did so? I did. Sarah. Can't do all this. One moment. Nearly there. Headstrong she is. All right, I'm trying to talk to her. Talk to her. How many times have you talked to her? Will you leave it in my hands? She can't carry on like this. You're the one that said it. Soft. Soft am I now? No. Weak. You backed up and let the land go, making yourself no better than a hired hand. You always have to go back years. Don't curse. You always have to go back years, every bloody difference we have, bringing us away out here to make us something out of nothing, to make us a fortune, to live in a sod hut and break our backs and lose a child. And not a word have I ever spoken. You say plenty. In words and in looks, always downing me. I only ever worked to raise you up. Shut your mouth now. I tell you this, and I tell you no more. You give in to this one here tonight, and you'll surely have a Fenian for a son-in-law. Now, either you do what you said you would, or I'll do it myself. Come here to me, you. He says. But it is he who moves towards me. And I look into my father's eyes. I want to say, no, Daddy, don't beat me, and I will never see him again. But the words do not come. They cannot. A draft creeps in under the door, around my ankles and up under my skirt. I say to myself, it is his touch in the big pasture when I ate strawberries and kissed him, my mouth full of the sweet taste. He grasps the belt. I hear her draw breath. Now you'll listen, she says. First crack of pain flying forwards, left arm across my chest, winded, flying backwards, slam onto the table. I close my eyes. I make no sound. He is breathing hard. Second, third, fourth crack come down across my spine. He stops after each blow, waiting for a tear, a plea, a cry. I give him nothing. Enough now. I hear buckle clunk on floor. He grabs me by shoulders, thrusts me backwards. We are dancing. And 1 and 2 and 3 and cut. Hitting me now with hand open, bang on this side of the head and bang on the other. Round and round we go. Enough now, Hugh. Against the wall, against the door, against the floor, under table, tumbling on back. Feet chase me to the other side. Hands drag me up again and bang on this side of the head and bang on the other and bang in the face. Mouth fills with thick salt taste. She is screaming now. Stop! And back and fall to the floor. It is cold, soothing. The little ones are at the doorway. I can hear them crying. Go on up to bed now, the lot of you, upstairs this minute, or I'll give you all something to cry about. Sit up. You don't see him no more. Sarah, do you hear me? She hears you. She hears you. Okay, so that's heritage. I'm gonna stop with that one. I'm only gonna read one scene, and I'll move to another play now. The thing about that play is it's done a lot now in high schools in Scotland. in order to counteract sectarianism, this Protestant versus Catholic thing.
Co je zajímavého na té hře, co jsme teďka slyšeli, je to, že ji teďka docela hodně hrajou na středních školách v Irsku v rámci toho, aby bojovali proti tomu sektářství a proti té nenávisti.
Okay. I'm going to move on now to the last extract.
A teď se přesuneme k poslednímu úryvku.
Once again, I've got to read two different characters.
A zase budu číst dvě různé postavy.
But I really felt I had to finish with a slightly more cheerful play.
Ale opravdu jsem chtěla skončit s něčím trošku veselějším.
This is I suppose my most famous play.
A je to v podstatě moje nejznámější hra.
It's been done pretty much all over the world, thankfully.
Hrála se po celém světě.
And it played off Broadway in New York and is going back there again next year.
Dokonce na Broadway hráli a vrací se tam příští rok.
This story was a real gift to me. It's a true story.
Je to příběh podle skutečné události.
It is from the Second World War.
Z druhé světové války.
And it is about two girls who survive the sinking of their cruise ship when it is torpedoed by a German U-boat.
Je to vlastně příběh dvou holek, 12letých holek, které přežily potopení lodi, která je vezla z Británie do Kanady, kterou zasáhlo torpédo.
So these two real women I met.
A já jsem ty dvě ženy opravdu potkala.
Along with the artistic director of the company who commissioned me.
Společně s uměleckým ředitelem té společnosti, která mi tu hru zadala.
I spent a week with them hearing the story of their survival.
Strávila jsem s nimi týden, kdy mi vlastně vyprávěli o tom, jak přežili.
When the ship was torpedoed, they had to cling to the bottom of an upturned lifeboat for a day and a night to survive.
Protože vlastně, když ta loď byla potopena, tak oni přežili tak, že se celý den, celou noc drželi vlastně spodní části převráceného záchranného člunu.
And they then became lifelong friends.
A potom se z nich stali přítelkyně na celý život.
And I met them both when they were in their 80s and they told me the story.
A já jsem je potkala, když jim oběma bylo přes 80 a vyprávěli mi svůj příběh.
This is a really uplifting story because it's about survival.
Je to pozitivní příběh, protože je o přežití.
It was a play originally written for children, but it appears adults quite like it too.
A původně jsem ji napsala pro děti, ale vypadá to, že dospělým se líbí.
So try to follow the script if you can't understand the different voices I'm doing.
A pokud nebudete
Not an actor.
co budu zkoušet, tak zkuste se držet aspoň toho přepisu.
This is the moment where the ship is torpedoed.
A teď jsme vlastně ve chvíli, kdy je ta loď torpedována.
The ship rocks about violently, throwing them all over the place. Bess is seasick. Are you all right? We better get downstairs. Hang on. What for? What's wrong, Bess? The Navy. Where have all the ships gone? I don't know. They've vanished. Grey everywhere as far as the eye can see. Dark. But it's only 6 o'clock. All's not well. It's only 6 o'clock and they put us to bed with no tea. Down the wooden hill to Bedfordshire, sleep. I can't sleep. Go to sleep. They sleep. Sound of a torpedo approaching. An explosion, and the ship rocks violently. The girls are thrown out of bed. A bell rings. The first thing was the bang, a bang bigger than anything I'd heard in the Blitz. An explosion, a smell of burning, burning chocolate, burning oil, burning fire. We're on fire. I looked at the other girls in my cabin. We knew what had happened, a torpedo. The Jerrys had got us. Me and the other girls in my cabin, Alice and Dora, we leapt out of bed. The ship rocked and the big heavy wardrobe came falling towards me. The wardrobe just missed my legs, but it fell right on top of Alice. She couldn't move. Me and Dora tried to lift the wardrobe, but it was too heavy. My leg was hurt. It was bleeding. I could hardly walk. Alice was trapped. We did what we practiced in the drill, put on our life jackets and get to the rocking horse muster station. The adults were very strict with us. We were not allowed to panic. We were not allowed to run. We made lots of noise, banging on the doors of the wardrobe. An officer came with an axe and chopped through the door. We had to climb up over the top of the wardrobe and get out of the door, but Alice was still trapped underneath it. We wanted to help her, but one of the escorts told us to get above decks, and so we did. She told us Alice would be all right, but we had to leave her behind. One of the escorts picked me up because I couldn't walk and carried me upstairs to the deck. The water was up to our ankles. The ship was sinking fast. We tried to go up the usual staircase, but it had collapsed. We had to find another way out. I could see through the floor. There were big gaps everywhere, and you could look right down into the decks below. On the deck, it was pitch black. The only light was from the fireworks. I think they're called flares, which the sailors were setting off to let people know we were in trouble. The sky was all red and yellow like on bonfire night. It was really pretty. A sailor shoved me up a broken staircase and another one lifted me onto the deck. A man lifted me into a lifeboat. I was looking for Lou. I was looking for my brother. They started to lower the lifeboat into the sea. I was thinking, we're going to be safe now. Then, the end of the lifeboat started dipping. We were going down at an angle, heading into the sea. I looked up. Above us, the ropes were entangled. A sailor took a knife and cut the ropes, and we plunged into the ocean. It's all right. We're floating. But then, the lifeboat's filling up with water. Water. My leg hurts, water up to my knees. I say to the little children beside me, keep your heads up. Water up to my waist. The little ones are drowning. Up to my chest. Up, keep your heads up. They're drowning. Oh no. Don't think about it. The lifeboat's sinking. Water up to my neck, to my chin. Deep breath and down, cold and dark, and lost my pajama bottoms, nearly lost my glasses, drowning. No, not drowning. Down, like a lift out of control, like a big Ferris wheel, too fast. I can't swim. What do? I can't swim. Too fast, we're gonna hit the bottom. No, got to. Remember what Dad said. Remember, young woman, here's the thing about diving. A human being is like a cork. It floats. When you go under, relax. Let your arms go wide. Float. That's it. No point kicking. Save your strength. That's it. When you come up, that's when the work really starts. Now, kick. I made it! I grabbed hold of the upturned lifeboat. And I grabbed hold of the lifeboat. And we stayed there all night. Bess? I think I might be nearly dead. Me too. Should we just let go? Hello? Hello? It's children. How many? 1, 2, maybe 3. Hang on! We're coming! Thank you. Plays are hard to read. Thank you for your patience.
Hry se těžko čtou. Děkuji vám, Nikola, za trpělivost. No a teď je teda čas pro vaše dotazy. Poprosím vás jedině potom, jestli byste si předávali mikrofon.
Good evening.
Evening.
I don't know is it good that you are here. Not it's not about me, but some days ago here was one writer, and also he was important politics at Prague, and he's a lovely man. But to my question about homeless people here, we have here now thousands homeless people, and in the time of socialism, we here were different problems, but such homeless people, I think, were not here. And his answer was, because he was maybe the man number 3 in the Czech Republic some years ago, and his answer was that he mean we cannot change it in free society, in free state. We cannot change it. I mean, we need to change it. So my question is, how is it with you? How you will vote also about Scotland, and what do you know about Moravian nation? One remark: our problem is we are not recognized. So we are people. You can tell about us what do you want. You can be still. You cannot answer my question because I am not here. Thanks. Takže jsem jenom říkal, že nevím, jestli je dobře, že je autorka tady, protože to sice není můj problém, ale vzhledem k tomu, že vlastně všechno, o čem mluví, je o tom, že svět, který má svoje problémy, je asi potřeba se pokusit změnit. Ale že je mnoho lidí v této společnosti s námi, kteří jsou milí a laskaví, to myslím bez ironie, ale kteří tu snahu ten svět změnit někde ve svém srdci i ve svém životě vzdali. Že?
I think there are a couple of questions there. So if I understand you correctly, the first question is, what is it like with homeless people and people in poverty in our country? I think that we are lucky because we still have something called the welfare state.
Tak myslím, že jestli teda správně pochopila, že se ptáte na to, jak je to s bezdomovci a s chudými lidmi ve Skotsku, tak na to může říct, že v podstatě ve Skotsku jsou na tom dobře, že mají to štěstí, že u nich pořád funguje sociální stát.
However, we only just still have something called the welfare state.
Ale je to tak jako na hranici.
And this keeps most people from starving. Most people.
Ale pořád to většinu lidí udrží od toho, aby neumřeli hlady.
But there are always people who fall through the system.
Ale vždycky se najde někdo, kdo tím systémem propadne a komu se nedostane ta pomoc.
And particularly during the recent economic crisis.
A zvlášť během té nedávné ekonomické krize.
We have many people now who are having to rely on charity in order not to starve.
Právě od té ekonomické krize se spousta lidí musí spoléhat na různé charitativní projekty, aby vůbec nehladověli.
We consider this a really great problem, and it is a serious problem. But compared to certain other European nations, we have a very small number of people in that position, I think.
Považujeme tu chudobu za vážný problém ve Skotsku, ale ve srovnání s ostatními evropskými zeměmi je to celkem malý problém ve Skotsku.
I can't really answer your question right now as to how we fix it.
V tuhle chvíli moc nemůžu odpovědět na vaši otázku ohledně toho, jak bychom to měli napravit.
Because I think that that's a very long answer, more than I have time for right now.
Protože to by byla moc dlouhá odpověď, na kterou teď asi nemáme úplně čas.
But I do think it can be fixed.
Ale myslím si, že to jde napravit.
But I think that people have to want to fix it first.
Ale to nejdůležitější je, aby to lidi chtěli změnit.
And I think when people are frightened, like that they're going to lose everything, their home, that their children are not going to be able, they're not going to be able to have as much, people stop being interested in others less fortunate, and they look after their own, and that's the big problem right now. Very simplistically.
A v podstatě hodně zjednodušeno, já si myslím, že problém je ten, že když se lidi bojí o sebe, o svoje děti, když ta ekonomická situace se zhorší, jsou na tom celkově hůř, tak přestávají myslet trošku na ty druhé a je pro ně nejdůležitější to, aby oni...
But for me it's the very greatest problem in the world.
Ale pro mě to je největší problém světa našeho.
Is how to stop people, how to lift people out of poverty. Wherever they are in the world, not just in my country.
Tak, pro mě je vlastně nejdůležitější otázka to, jak pozvednout lidi z chudoby. Nejenom ve Skotsku, ale v celém světě. Jestli stačí.
But I'm happy to talk with you more afterwards.
Ale klidně si s vámi o tom ráda pohovořím později. So the second question, I think, was the yes or no.
Okay, I am going to vote yes in the referendum.
Takže v referendu budu hlasovat pro odtržení Skotska.
And the reason why I'm going to vote yes, despite the fact that I'm a socialist, I'm going to vote yes despite the fact that I'm a socialist.
A budu volit ano, i přesto, že jsem socialistka.
A socialist doesn't really should not believe in kind of individual little nations, because it should be about the well-being of all humankind.
A v podstatě jako socialistka bych totiž neměla moc věřit na nějaké velké dělení zemí, na národy, že by všechno by mělo být všech.
That's a classic belief of socialism.
Což je ta klasická.
But I think that in Scotland we are a much more socialist type of society than the rest of the United Kingdom, and I think that if we had a chance, like I say in my play, if we have a chance to do it differently, maybe we would make a fairer country, and that is the reason why I want to vote yes.
No a ještě si myslím, že Skotsko je mnohem socialističtější než zbytek Spojeného království. A proto, kdybychom dostali šanci být samostatní, tak si myslím, že bychom to víc, byli bychom prostě socialističtější stát, sociálnější stát.
And that is an uncomfortable yes, because there are many things about voting yes that concern me.
A i přesto, že budu volit pro odtržení Skotska, tak není to úplně jasné, ano, z mojí strany, protože pořád je kolem toho spousta věcí, které úplně nevím, jak budou probíhat.
As most of the rest of Europe knows, building a new country is a very, very difficult job.
A protože většina Evropy ví, že budovat stát vlastně od začátku je obtížná záležitost.
But I think there's more to be gained than there is to be lost if we have an independent Scotland.
Ale myslím si pořád, že když se odtrhneme, tak pořád toho víc získáme, než ztratíme. Yeah. And the third question was about Moravia, I think. What do you know?
I know only a very little about Moravia. I know that there is a small separatist movement here, or a small nationalist movement in Moravia.
A k té třetí otázce, teda co ví o Moravě, bych řekla to, že toho ví teda málo, jenom že je tady menší separatistické hnutí.
But to me, nationalism and socialism together makes a very uncomfortable mix. It was tried once in Germany, and it didn't work out very well for the rest of the human race.
Ale podle mého názoru míchat nacionalismus a socialismus je obtížné. Zkoušeli to v Německu, nedopadlo to moc dobře.
So this worries me always. Not about here, but about anywhere where this happens.
Takže o tom vždycky přemýšlím o těchto věcech, ať se to týká jakékoliv země. Tak?
Any other questions? Okay.
Your first play, based on that painting with figure like James III, brought me to following question, because we have been here for more than week already, and I'm afraid that we didn't discuss yet what kind of government would be if majority would vote yes, and if Scotland would remain in British Commonwealth, or if they would have choose own king or queen. Já jenom jsem poznamenal, že ta první hra na základě toho obrazu, když byl ten James III a tak, že jsme tady ještě nediskutovali, jaká vláda by byla v tom Skotsku, pokud by většina hlasovala pro ano, a jestli by zůstalo Skotsko v britském společenství národů, a nebo jestli by měli třeba vlastního krále nebo královnu a tak dále.
Okay, so did you understand?
No, I didn't understand the question.
Okay. So the question was, what do you think? We've been here for over a week, and we haven't discussed the question of the government in Scotland in case the referendum is pro-separation.
Do you mean what the relationship will be to the rest of the United Kingdom?
If the Scotland remains in the Commonwealth, or if there will be another queen, or whatever.
Are you asking my opinion, or are you asking what I think will happen?
Facts. Are there any
Facts.
facts?
There are no facts. I think that it's likely Scotland will remain within the Commonwealth. I think it's likely that from various papers that have been put forward and what the leading politicians are saying, I think there has to be some kind of continuing relationship between the two countries, practically.
No, takže v podstatě žádná fakta já vám k tomu asi nesdělím, že asi žádný moc nejsou, ale aspoň Nikola si myslí, že je pravděpodobné, že by Skotsko zůstalo součástí toho britského společenství národů. Že určitě bude muset zůstat nějaký blízký vztah mezi zbytkem království a Skotskem, už z praktických důvodů.
I think what's putting a lot of people off voting yes is this uncertainty.
A myslím si, že právě tahle nejistota je to, co hodně lidí odrazuje od toho, aby volili pro odtržení Skotska.
Because it seems to some people like a very big risk to take, that they are gambling their futures and their children's futures away.
Protože spoustě lidí to přijde jako dost velký risk, že si vlastně zahrávají se svojí budoucností svých dětí a tak.
I think human beings fall into many camps, but there are two general ones. There are people who embrace risk and people who don't like change.
A obecně si myslím, že to platí o lidech, že jsou dva druhy lidí, jedni rádi riskují a druzí radši mají tu svoji jistotu.
No good thing has ever come from not embracing change, in my opinion.
Ale podle mého názoru nikdy nic dobrého nevzešlo z toho, když to nerisknete, když nic nezměníte.
And in order to do something new, all the greatest inventions were made and the greatest theories have been dreamt up by risk takers, by dreamers, by people who embraced uncertainty. And I think that's important if we really want to have hope for a different future for our people and to have a different relationship to the world at the moment as well that the United Kingdom currently does.
A v podstatě si myslím, že spousta vynálezů, spousta věcí v naší historii lidstva by se nestala, kdyby nebylo těch lidí, co to riskli. A takže si myslím, že je dobré tu změnu přijmout a že ta změna nám může dát naději na lepší budoucnost, na jinou budoucnost.
I think it's much more certain what will happen if there is a no vote, what will happen to Scotland if there is a no vote.
A myslím, že je určitě mnohem jistější, co bude se Skotskem, když to referendum skončí odpovědí ne.
Because it's happened many times before. Protože
to už se stalo několikrát předtím.
And it is a truism that human beings never learn from history.
A říká se, že lidé se nikdy nepoučí z historie, z vlastních dějin.
But every single time Scotland has tried to move away from the United Kingdom before, England has punished Scotland severely for trying to move away.
A v podstatě při všech příležitostech, kde se Skotsko pokoušelo osvobodit nebo odtrhnout od Anglie, bylo potom potrestáno Anglií.
So I just wrote a play this year about the outcome after the 1979 referendum, and when Scotland was raped of its resources, its industries were decimated, and the 80s in Scotland was a very dark place for most people, and that was because the Conservative government punished the Scots for even having thought about independence before.
A vlastně tenhle rok jsem napsala novou hru, která se zabývá tím, co se dělo po referendu v roce 79, které teda skončilo odmítnutím. A v podstatě potom vláda v podstatě Skotsku potrestala tím, že potrestala jí po průmyslové stránce a všem možném, a takže vlastně 80. léta byla pro Skotsko dost temnou stránkou dějin.
So I quote my friend who was here the other day, the playwright Peter Arnott, when I say that a vote no is like saying, please don't hit me.
Takže jsme se o tom bavili s mým přítelem Peter Arnottem, který tady taky byl. A vlastně jsem mu říkala, že pro mě volba ne znamená jenom to, že říkáme vlastně Anglii, Londýnu, prosím, jenom mě už nebijte.
We all want to make it better, and therefore we have to try.
Všichni chceme, aby nám bylo líp, a proto se musíme pokusit aspoň.
Staying the same, it's just going to get worse.
Protože když zůstane všechno při starém, tak už to bude jenom horší.
It's very interesting because I can't help but it reminds me a lot about situation in former Czechoslovakia after Russian invasion or Soviet, because people who were in opposition and were protesting were afterwards punished in case that they didn't want or didn't catch right wind. So it's rather interesting that...
Except that with now the situation and the situation in 1979-80 is that Scotland was very much punished economically. So I find it interesting. I'll let you translate that.
Já jsem řekl mi to trošku, jak říkal, že Skotsko bylo potrestáno, kdykoliv se nějak vzpouzilo, že by to trošku připomíná tady po roce 68, po sovětské invazi, tedy, že taky kdo nechtěl zachytit nebo nezachytil vítr, tak byl taky potrestaný.
And many people want to vote no because they don't want to pay more taxes and they don't want the country to become poor, but the country became poor after the 1979 referendum anyway, and it was a no vote.
No a já si myslím, že v podstatě hlavní rozdíl mezi tím dnešním referendem a tím, co proběhlo v roce 79, je to, že po tehdejším referendum bylo Skotsko potrestáno hlavně ekonomicky. A takže dneska se lidi bojí hlasovat ne, protože se bojí, že budou vyšší daně, že budou chudší, ale přitom vlastně to, že jsou chudší, je způsobené tím, že volili ne už tehdy v tom 79.
Though it's still debated if it was actually a no vote or whether that vote was tampered with.
A pořád se debatuje o tom, jestli to bylo tehdy to referendum skončilo opravdu zamítavou odpovědí, anebo jestli to bylo trošku upravené.
I do wish human beings would learn from history. That is why as a writer I write about history so much.
A já jako spisovatel si přeju, aby se lidi poučili ze své historie, a proto taky o historii docela dost píšu.
Good evening. Takže bylo nám řečeno, že píšete román, tak bych se chtěl zeptat, jestli nějakým způsobem, je to pravda?
Je.
Tak jestli nějakým způsobem tematicky navazuje na ta dramata, nebo se bude zabývat něčím jiným, a proč změna té formy?
Okay, so I mentioned you are writing a novel. So the question is concerning the novel.
Okay.
And why? There are two questions actually. The first one is if the topic of the novel is similar to the topics of your drama.
Okay. Yep.
And why did you decide to change the format, change the genre?
Okay, I'll answer the second part first.
Okay.
I changed genre because I was given a big award by the Arts Agency in Scotland in 2003, when they gave me £30,000 to do something completely new, as a kind of, it was for artists who were quite well developed already and they wanted to change direction?
Tak nejdřív teda odpovím na tu druhou část, to proč jsem se rozhodla změnit žánr. A to proto, že vlastně v roce 2003 jsem dostala cenu, pro autory, kteří už jsou celkem etablovaní, ale chtějí dělat něco jiného. A takže tehdy jsem dostala 30 000 liber, v podstatě, abych zkusila na tom zapracovat. Takže proto jsem se k tomu románu dostala.
And at that point in my career, I was very successful, very young and very quickly. I was very successful, very young and very quickly, say that right, okay?
Já jsem vlastně svého úspěchu dosáhla celkem rychle a celkem mladá.
So in the 1990s I made a lot of money, had a lot of work, and I did too much. I was too arrogant, and then I had a big illness where I could not work for 18 months because I had been so greedy, had gone away from my first passion, and I messed up my career.
Takže vlastně 90. léta pro mě byly hrozně úspěšný nejprve. Vydělávala jsem celkem dost peněz, měla jsem moc práce a byla jsem asi trochu workoholička, takže v podstatě potom jsem už nemohla dál pracovat. Pak jsem vlastně 18 měsíců v podstatě nemohla pracovat, protože jsem toho chtěla dělat moc najednou a zapomněla jsem na to, co je vlastně moje pravá vášeň.
And I was very disillusioned about working in theatre at that point.
A také v tu dobu jsem byla celkem zklamaná tím, jak to vlastně v divadlech funguje.
So this award allowed me to start again, and I decided to use it to do something different.
Takže mě tahle cena umožnila začít znovu a já jsem se rozhodla využít ty peníze k tomu, abych zkusila něco jiného.
To me, writing a novel is a very great challenge.
A pro mě je to rozhodně výzva psát román.
Because it is a very different thing to writing a play, even a full-length play, and I'd written many at that point.
Protože je velký rozdíl psát román a psát divadelní hru. A i když jsem napsala spoustu celovečerních divadelních her, je to pořád obrovský rozdíl.
So the story of the novel is in 3 parts.
Takže vlastně ten román má 3 části.
And the main overall theme of the novel is about intervention. It's about Western powers intervening in other countries in different ways.
Takže první is the first part?
All 3 parts are about that.
A všechny ty části jsou v podstatě o tom, jak západní země zasahují do jiných zemí.
So really briefly, the first part is about the interventionists, the British forces and French forces which came to Russia, to Arkhangelsk in 1917 to fight on the side of the White Russians against the Bolsheviks.
Takže ta první část je o Britech a Francouzích, co bojovali v Rusku v roce 1917 proti bolševikům.
But it's one boy who is a soldier. He's in the Navy, sorry, and his father is a communist because there's a communist rent strike back in Glasgow where he's from. And so he's having to fight against what his family believe in. So that's his dilemma in the first part.
A vlastně hlavní postavou tam je kluk, námořník, který bojuje teda proti bolševikům v Rusku, ale zároveň jeho otec je komunista, protože v té době probíhá vlastně celkem komunistická vlna v Glasgow, takže on vlastně musí bojovat proti tomu, čemu věří jeho rodina.
Second part is about a secretary in the diplomatic service who finds out, is expelled from Moscow because she has an affair with a Russian, and then she begins to get these messages through the post at her home in Edinburgh from her lover who is in Siberia.
No a v druhé části je vlastně postavou hlavní sekretářka, která slouží v diplomatických službách a pracovala v Moskvě, ze které teda musí odejít, protože měla vztah se svým
an affair with a Russian guy, and she's expelled from Moscow.
Měla nějaký vztah s Rusem, a takže musí opustit Moskvu a potom vlastně dostává v Edinburghu doma zprávy od toho svého milého, který je vlastně na Sibiři.
And that part is set in 1953. It starts in the day Stalin's death is announced in the press.
A tato část se odehrává v roce 1953, kdy potom vlastně Stalinova smrt je oznámena.
And the third part is set now with a young doctor from Scotland who is involved with the TB programs with a medical charity in Russian prisons.
A třetí část se odehrává v dnešní době a její hlavní postavou je skotský doktor, který se účastní různých charitativních projektů v Rusku, kde léčí tuberkulózu.
And all three stories they link through the theme, but they also have a story link in them.
No a všechny ty příběhy jsou v podstatě propojené.
And if I could just write novels, it would be great. But it is very hard.
A kdyby mi to šlo tak jako samo, tak by to bylo super, ale
much better at plays.
Bohužel mi ty hry jdou mnohem víc teda.
I have one question about the theatre scene in Scotland because it is with inhabitants comparable to my home country Slovakia. Then I can meet playwrights of Scotland every day in this month, and they tends to show that they are living out of what they do. They tend to be successful. So I'm very curious, how many theaters, for example, are you involved with, and how does it work? I mean, the whole system.
Yeah. 2 minutes. I'll give you a very, very quick answer. Never ask a writer, a playwright, about theatre, because the collective noun for playwrights is a whinge of playwrights, a moaning of playwrights.
V podstatě má krátkou odpověď, nikdy se neptejte autora her na divadlo.
So like a kind of flock of seagulls, it's a whinge, a moaning of playwrights. It's pretty good. We are very lucky in Scotland.
A ve Skotsku ale je ta divadelní scéna funguje dobře.
The most important thing about Scotland is that the theatre there is mostly built on new plays. So it's all about new plays in Scotland. Very little about Shakespeare or old works. It's all about playwrights writing plays now, and that we're lucky.
A co je vlastně na Skotsku výjimečné a s čím máme štěstí, je, že většina her, co se tam hraje, jsou nové hry, že jenom malá část toho jsou klasiky jako Shakespeare.
So most of the theatre companies in Scotland will have an interest in getting playwrights to make new work.
Takže většina těch společností ve Skotsku má zájem kontaktovat dramatiky, aby pro ně psali hry.
So it's a very exciting place to work, but there are very many playwrights, and there are perhaps not enough theatres to employ all these very many playwrights we now have.
Takže je to na jednu stranu skvělé místo k práci, ale na druhou stranu je tam ve Skotsku je strašně moc dramatiků. Takže a není tam až tolik divadel.
I am very lucky though because I currently have 6 commissions from 6 different theatres.
Ale já mám docela štěstí, protože teď zrovna vlastně pracuji pro 6 různých divadel.
So I'm one of the lucky ones, but then I'm older.
Takže mám štěstí, ale taky jsem starší, takže zkušenější. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, certainly. Nice to meet you. Thank you for your question.
Thanks for the answer.
Thank you. You want a bigger autograph?
Maybe.
Pen isn't working very well. I'll have to get a pen.
If I can
Email address? Yep. Pen. Pen is not working. Thank you.
And your remark, Germany.
Yes.
I think it was also a question of militarism. And,
Of Americanism? Yeah.
Militarism and
Militarism.
It was a time when one part of society was active and the biggest part of the society was passive, and then there was one small part of this society which was for this majority not so important, and it was the biggest problem. And so is it now also with poor people in our world, and also with some questions in culture which are maybe not so important as questions what to do only to life, but which are maybe also important because culture is important for us.
Yes.
In Europe, not only in Europe.
Thank you.